How much of an IT infrastructure do small to medium-sized firms need for reconciliation?
In my opinion, if you are a small to medium-sized firm, I don't think it makes sense to have the IT infrastructure of a multi-billion-dollar shop. Um, I think I think that at a certain AUM threshold, it makes sense to upgrade with the needs of the investors that come to you. But in the beginning, I think it makes sense to be more or less bare bones. And in the last two startups that I've had that I helped launch, we used, for example, Excel for all of our reconciliation tools and our P&L tools. And as we scaled and grew in size as well as put on more accounts, then we would do our due diligence and gather some sort of tool that we would upgrade to help the portfolio managers as well as myself.
What should firms take into consideration as far as the buy or build question?
So the buy or build question is a frequent question that is asked for internal IT and software. In my opinion, I think long term, the dollar cost is much lower for when you build in-house, and in the short term is a little more expensive when you go when you do the in-house building. In short, I think long term it makes much more sense to build in-house, because I've never encountered a program or some sort of solution that was exactly the way that either I or the portfolio manager wanted. There's always something lacking or some sort of deficiency that doesn't fit in with your strategy. So there's a little bit of succumbing to the design that you're provided. So I would say in the short term, it makes sense though to lease or buy some sort of outsourced program, because it's cookie cutter, it's off the shelf, it's easy for you to use, and in the long term, whether the threshold is $1 billion or $500 million, to kind of have a thought process on if and when you would start to build in-house.
And what advice would you give to emerging firms?
My advice to emerging firms would be, don't stress too much about launching with all the bells and whistles of a multi-billion-dollar shop. Investors are very casual in an operational due diligence meeting, in the sense that they're not going to pressure you and walk away just because you're lacking in a specific piece of your firm. It's a casual conversation where they might suggest something and you make a business decision to add it on. So in my opinion, I would say grow organically with the growing demands of the investors and the regulatory institutions out there. Make business decisions that would piece together your strategy with the demands of your investors versus coming out and launching with everything pre-built.